Hello everybody and welcome back to Gaming on Caffeine. My name is Isaac and we are back for episode 22 of Feed the Beast Infinity Evolved Skyblock. And since the end of last episode, I have spent quite a bit of time upgrading our logistics pipe system. Don't worry, we are going to work on something else today. It's not going to be even more logistics pipes. But since the end of last episode, I have added a bunch of new recipes to all of the thermal expansion machines, as well as a bunch of new recipes, as you can see, to the logistics crafting table. And I've also added a couple of new machines to the lineup down here on the end. We've got 5 new thermionic fabricators as well as 3 new carpenters, and the reason why we have multiple of these machines, the machines from forestry, as opposed to just 1 or 2 of the machines from industrial craft, thermal expansion, and immersive engineering, is because the ones from forestry all require a pattern in order to create the item that they're creating. For example, all of these carpenters are all making different kinds of circuits, and to make those circuits they need a pattern in the left hand slot here. And so if I wanted to do it with one machine, I'd have to come over before every craft and actually change the recipe, which kind of defeats the whole point of auto crafting in general, which is to not have to come and touch the machines at all and still be able to recraft all of the stuff that we want to craft. All of these guys are making different types of electron tube, and if we come back over to our request pipe over here, we can now see that we have over a full page of craftable items, including a bunch of stuff from Industrial Craft 2 specifically, because the stuff from Industrial Craft 2 is a pain to make. And also in today's episode, we are going to work a little bit more on advancing forward with Industrial Craft 2 and getting towards that applied energistic system, which is still quite a bit down the line, as I mentioned a couple of episodes back. But before we start working on that, there are a few more things that I've done since the end of last episode. The first of which is set up this automated obsidian production machine, which is very simply just pumping the lava from most of these crucibles, apart from this very end one here, because I still wanted to have one crucible that I could come and get lava from if we needed it for, say, crafting or something like that. But the rest of the lava is being pumped round into this stone barrel. The water is then turning that lava directly into obsidian, which is then being pulled down through the hopper into this cache from thermal expansion, and then that cache is hooked up to the logistics pipe system using a provider logistics pipe. So if we ever want to make more hardened glass or anything that requires, say, pulverized obsidian, I don't have to come over and make it manually, put it into the system, and then request the craft. It can just pull from the 122 obsidian that we have in this cache over here. And finally, I think the last thing that I've done since the end of last episode is set up this little contraption over here, which is basically a dump chest for me to get rid of stuff in my inventory and put it back into the system. And the way it works is we have a wooden transport pipe from Buildcraft hooked up to a hardened flux duct, which, as you can see at the top there in Whaler, is providing power to the wooden transport pipe. You can also do this with a redstone engine if you'd like, but I've just hooked it up to the hardened flux ducts because we already had them running here. And basically the way this works is if I put something into that chest, for example, let me go and grab something real quick because I kind of want to keep everything that I have in my inventory already in my inventory. Actually, you know what? I'll grab something from all these chests, which I've actually updated as well since the end of last episode. And these are basically the junk chests for all of the stuff that doesn't fit into these storage drawers over here. And as I did last episode, I've upgraded all of these to logistics chassis pipes, which all contain a provider module and an item sync module, meaning that they can provide items to the system, and they are all set to default routes so that all of the items that I put into the dump chest will try and go to one of these 8 golden chests. So for example, if I take all of these gold item casing, bring them down and stick them into this chest over here, say that I've finished crafting whatever it is I was trying to craft and I want to get rid of all of the gold item casing that I have, I can put it in there. The wooden transport pipe will pull it out. Once the logistics pipe system realizes that it doesn't need these golden plates, what it'll do is put them into one of these chests here, and now I can access them later on down the line if I so wish. And it's just a nice quick way of being able to empty out my inventory without having to come back up here if I want to dump it into this, and also without having to put all the stuff into these chests individually, which is pretty cool. So, as I mentioned earlier, what I want to work on today is a little bit more Industrial Craft 2, because if we want to move forward and get an applied Energistics 2 system, we still need that wrench, and we still need a lot of iridium. So, if we come back up here and we take a quick look again at the recipe for iridium, we can see that it's made using MOX fuel and pellets of RTG fuel, which, as we know, are made using plutonium, and those are made using tiny piles of plutonium, which we are currently making by taking depleted uranium fuel rods out of our nuclear reactor and putting them through our thermal centrifuge. And as of right now, we have 51 tiny piles of plutonium, which is almost enough to make one piece of uranium. We do have a bunch of depleted uranium fuel rods, I think, currently in our reactor. Let me quickly switch out to my, Let me quickly switch out to my hazmat suit here and go and grab some of that uranium, which I think is completely depleted at this point, and stick it in the thermal centrifuge. So we have about enough plutonium, or we will do once we put all of these depleted rods through the thermal centrifuge to make one piece of iridium. And in order to make the wrench from Industrial Craft 2 that we need in order to actually start making some stuff, oh sorry, the wrench from Applied Energistics that we need to start making any of the items from Applied Energistics requires 64 pieces of iridium. So we're not really anywhere near close to being there, and so what I'm going to work on today is a system that is going to help us get more iridium a little bit faster, because one of the main downfalls to the system we have right now, well, let me take out all this stuff here, is that we have to manually upgrade, we have to manually make all of the uranium fuel rods, and then manually put them into the thermal centrifuge. I thought my thermal centrifuge had blown up just then, but apparently a creeper had spawned amongst the trees, but we have to do it all manually. Like right now I have to wait until all of this stuff has gone through, manually take it out, stick it into here, and then craft it up into iridium. And what I want to work on is a slightly more automated process that doesn't require the nuclear reactor, and that is of course using the replicator system within Industrial Craft 2, and to do that we need to produce a good source of UU matter. So if we look over here and type in UU matter is a liquid within Industrial Craft 2 that is produced in the mass fabricator. So the first thing we're going to do is come on back down here. Oh my I don't have my jetpack, so the first thing we're going to do is jump off the edge to our death. Once we respawn, what we're going to do, now that we've got rid of almost all of the uranium from our inventory, is we're going to switch out back to our armor with our jetpack so we can fly again. We're going to come down here, and we're going to look at the recipe for a mass fabricator. To make this is actually fairly easy. All we need is 2 advanced circuits, 2 advanced machine casing, 4 glowstone dust, as well as a Lapotron crystal. And most of these I've actually taught my logistics pipe system to make already. So if we come in here and let's take a look. Advanced circuits I know for a fact we can make already, so let's request 2 of those. We can also make advanced machine casing, so let's go ahead and request 2 of those. Glowstone we already have, and then a Lapotron crystal is 6 more lapis lazuli dust, 2 more advanced circuits, as well as an energy crystal. I'm pretty sure that I've taught my system how to make energy crystals. Let's have a look here. We already have 1. We only need the 1, so that's all good. We are out of redstone chipsets, so let me quickly fly back up to here and stick some redstone into the assembly table. The one thing that I didn't automate with logistics pipes that I feel like I really should automate at some point in the near future is this assembly table setup. We should teach our system how to make, for instance, redstone chipsets by putting redstone into the assembly table and then withdrawing it from this chest back down, probably into another chest below it, and pulling it back into the system, because we are using a lot of chipsets for a lot of the crafts that we're going to be doing in the near future. So whilst we wait for those and all that stuff to craft up here, let's take a look at this Lapotron crystal. 6 lapis lazuli dust is super easy, and as we mentioned before, we already have that base energy crystal, so let's take 6 of these. And the next thing we need to worry about is power, because right now we have a pretty good source of power. Where is my macerator? It is somewhere, I want to say. I'm almost... Oh, it's here, right here. Never mind. So we'll put that in there. We need to worry about power, because although we have a good source of power up here for all of these machines, the mass fabricator says that it can use up to 512 EU per tick. But whilst I was testing that in a single-player world, that proved not to be true. And in fact, it could take much, much more than 512 EU per tick. I think maybe up to 8,192 EU per tick. And for those who are unaware, the conversion from EU to RF, or RF to EU, is that 4 redstone flux equals 1 EU. So for example, if we were to provide this thing with 512 EU per tick, that would be 2,048, I think, redstone flux per tick. So we do not currently have that amount of power ready to give solely to the mass fabricator, and once we get this thing up and running, you'll see just how slowly it does produce UU matter, and so we are going to have to set up a dedicated system for producing a lot of power specifically for the mass fabricator. So let me come back down here. This thing is still working on crafting some stuff, and this kind of does lead me into another thing that I want to work on before we set up the mass fabricator, and that is speeding up our Industrial Craft 2 machines, because right now they are very slow, like very, very, very slow, especially the compressor. The metal former, not so much. It is slow, but we don't use it for a whole lot of things. The compressor, however, is very slow. And what we're going to do to get the power for the mass fabricator is I've taught my system how to make steam dynamos, and I would like to make a couple more steam dynamos, place them down over here. You'll see we have a water source ready and raring to go. And I would like to use all of those steam dynamos to power my mass fabricator. However, the steam dynamos, if we look at the recipe again, do require a core chunk, and to make this, we need to use the compressor, and like I just mentioned, it is extremely slow. And so what we're going to work on before we go forward with the mass fabricator is we're going to work on crafting some overclockers. So I've talked about these before. I think I mentioned them in an earlier episode, and I think I got them wrong. I think I pointed out these overclockers here, which are not for industrial craft machines. These are for the IC2 reactor, the type of heat vent that you can use to cool the reactor down. Instead, we need to make these overclocker upgrades, and those go into the industrial craft 2 machines, much like the auto eject upgrades, which I don't think I've actually talked about in the series yet. Basically, I made these upgrades right here, the ejector upgrades, because the industrial craft machines don't automatically output by default. What I did is I made these ejector upgrades, and the way these work is you can shift right click onto the side of an industrial craft machine, and if you look at the item in my inventory there on my hotbar, you can see that it's changing the side that it will try and automatically output to. And so basically all I've done is shift right clicked on the back here like so, and then stuck that into the machine like that, and you'll see that it now automatically outputs to the north side. If we press F3 real quick and we look over here, you can see it says north. We're facing north right now, and so it will automatically output into that chest, which is how all of the stuff gets back from the compressor into the logistics pipe system. And the overclockers work in a similar way in that they go in this slot over here, but instead of changing the way the machines output, it actually speeds up the rate at which the machines work. So the way we make these is not too bad, especially now that we've automated the process of crafting electronic circuits, but the hard part about it, I've also, by the way, automated insulated copper cables, but the hard thing about it is crafting these 10K coolant cells. These are made by crafting up tin plates with coolant cells, and coolant cells are not very well explained in NEI because for some reason it just shows you infusing an empty cell with some IC2 coolant, but then the only recipe shown for IC2 coolant is from a coolant cell. Not quite sure why the recipe isn't on here, but the way that you do it is using a canning machine. Now we do have a canning machine, but we have the solid canning machine, and we need the fluid/solid canning machine in order for this to work. So let me come back over here real quick and request some more stuff. So for this, we need 7 tin item casing, 1 electronic circuit, and 1 basic machine casing. So let's go ahead and request 7 of those. Let's also go ahead and request a basic circuit like that. Don't want 7, just want the 1. And then a basic machine casing is also fairly easy to request like so. Has any of my other stuff arrived? It has. We have the 2 advanced circuits and the 1 advanced machine casing for the mass fabricator. Let me go and see how many redstone chipsets we have right now in our chest. Hopefully a fair few. We do. We got 21. Let me throw those. Ooh, we've got 11 redstone chipsets in there. I'm not quite sure why the system didn't want to use those to craft some more advanced circuits. Let me try that again real quick. If we request 2 more, not 64, if we request 2 more of those, that one worked fine. So let's go and grab the lapis dust. We'll continue working on crafting the mass fabricator whilst we wait for all of the items required for making the fluid/solid canning machine. So we've got the lapis lazuli dust. Let's quickly request the energy crystal, which I think is probably in one of the golden chests. Let's have a look. Energy crystal, let's request you. What else are we missing? Mass fabricator. We've got the glowstone. We should probably request the glowstone actually. Oh, we are missing 1 more advanced machine casing. That should arrive any second now. And other than that, we are pretty much good to go. So let's request 4 glowstone. 1, 2, 3, 4. How are we doing on this? We're still waiting on the advanced machine casing. And again, it's because the compressor is so slow at making stuff. So very, very slow. Nevertheless, a little while later, all of the items required for making the canning machine are all here. And one other thing that I've done actually here that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the episode is I've put the crafting station directly next to the chest that receives all of the items from the request logistics pipe. And the reason why I've done that is because if we go into the crafting station now, you can see that all of the items are here on the left. You can actually access the chest from the crafting station, and what we should be able to do is actually go ahead and shift left click this recipe in from the chest without actually having to have all of the items in my main inventory. So if we hold shift and click left click, it actually takes all of the items out of here and puts them into the crafting station. So now we can take this canning machine and for now we're gonna have to put it down probably somewhere up here, mainly because we have no power downstairs. So let me quickly grab one of these MV wire connectors, and I think we do have some MV coils lying around somewhere. We do. Let me go ahead and request both of those for the time being. And actually, you know what? I will put it down right about here. It's a really weird place, and I'll move it at some point in the future, but for basically, it's getting power from the bat box, and so we should be able to use it. Now, the way this works is we have to change the mode here from canning to, let me see if I can find it, we need this one, fluid enriched, tank or cell. You need to be in this mode, and now if we go back to the recipe for the overclockers, we need to make these 10k coolant cells, and for that, we need normal coolant cells, and for those, we need empty cells, and to make empty cells, we put plates through a metal former in extruding mode. I'm not 100% sure if I taught my system how to make cells. We might have done. Let me request all 6 of those and see if it lets me make any more. It does. So let me go ahead and let's just request like another, like, I guess 32 of those, because we're going to need quite a few in order to speed up all of our machines sufficiently to actually be pretty quickly. But whilst we're waiting for all those to craft up, I can show you how it works with the 6 that we have. And basically what we do is we put empty cells in over here on the left. We put water into the rest of it. For water, I don't think you can put buckets directly into the system, and so what I'm going to have to do is quickly make another tank from thermal expansion. So let's just grab 4 glass and 1 copper. It doesn't need to be a particularly big tank. We'll just take a normal portable tank, stick that down on top like so, grab a bucket real quick from the request here. Let's, ooh, we don't have any buckets. Where are all of our buckets at? Do we have any iron plates lying around? Again, I should just request them so we can craft ourselves another bucket. Iron plates, we do. Let's get 3 of those so we can put some stuff into this tank here and then have that set to output mode so that all the water goes into the fluid/solid canning machine. And then the final thing that we need is lapis lazuli dust. So let me again go ahead and put a stack of lapis in there to get a bunch of lapis lazuli dust. Let's quickly whip up a bucket like so. Grab at least 1,000 millibuckets worth of water from over here and stick that into the canning machine. And what I'll do is once I've made the first like set of 10k coolant cells, I'll go away and make the rest of them to speed up all of our machines. But you'll see that's gone straight into the tank here. And if we put this lapis lazuli dust, I think over here on the right hand side, or if we put it in the middle, it should start to turn these empty cells into enriched cells. Do I have the right one here? Possibly. There are a few different modes. That one seems like the wrong mode. I think it's supposed to be this mode. It is, we are in the right mode. However, a quick look at the wiki shows me that we need at least 8 lapis lazuli dust in order to make one of these. So if we put 8 in, you'll see the recipe starts. So combining up, I think, 1,000 millibuckets of water. I think it will use all of the water in this tank on the left, as well as 8 lapis lazuli dust should fill an empty cell up and turn it into a coolant cell. We then, of course, craft that coolant cell up with 4 tin plates. And now, again, if we look at the recipe for an overclocker, that will get us the 10k coolant cell. And so, what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to go away. I'm going to request that the system make me a bunch of normal electronic circuits, as well as a bunch of insulated copper cable. I'm going to go ahead and make a bunch of these 10k coolant cells, and I'll come back in a second to craft up a bunch of overclockers and put them into the machines. And a little while later, we now have 30 of these coolant cells over here, enough to make 20 overclockers. And I did go ahead and already make a couple of these overclocker upgrades for the macerator because it was taking forever to turn lapis into lapis lazuli dust. You can see now with 6 overclocker upgrades, it's doing it significantly faster, enough so that we can take this and craft up the Lapitron crystal for the mass fabricator in just a second. But before we do that, I've also requested 10 electronic circuits as well as 20 insulated copper cables. So what we could do now is actually, first of all, go ahead and make a bunch of tin plates. I did also go ahead and take out our forge hammer because it was taking the system way too long to make enough tin plates. So let's just go ahead and do something like this. It is a bit wasteful, but it's also a heck of a lot faster than asking the system to make all those for us. That gets us a bunch of 10k coolant cells, which we can now craft up with our electronic circuits and our insulated copper cables to get some overclocker upgrades. Nice. Now, we of course didn't manage to make all of those quite there. We've still got 18 coolant cells left, as well as 6 of these electronic circuits, but we do have 8 of these. So if we come on down here, what we can do is we can start putting those into the machines that we have over here, specifically, like I mentioned earlier, putting them into the compressor like so. So now, if we were to go ahead and let's say come back over here, do we have what it takes to request some steam dynamos? I'm thinking about 6 steam dynamos in total. I do want to put some upgrades in there. It does say request successful. That should instantly send some coal over to the pulverizer, turn that into some coal dust, which when combined with some flint will then start to get crafted up and compressed up over here in the compressor, and it should move pretty quickly, hopefully a lot faster than it was doing before. You can see here it's making a bunch of pulverized coal. Whilst we wait for that, let's come back over to our crafting station over here. We should now have everything we need to make the mass fabricator. Let's just put this lapis lazuli dust either side of the energy crystal, as well as, let me quickly look at the recipe again, what else do we need? As well as 2 of the advanced circuits here, and here we can then take that Lapotron crystal and combine it up with the advanced machine casing, which go, I think, on the left and right. They do left and right. The advanced circuits top and bottom, the glowstone all around like so, and that gets us the mass fabricator, which we're then going to use to start producing a bunch of UU matter. Just to give you an example of how slow this machine is, if I was to bring it over here right now, these copper cable are receiving, I think, a maximum, of 32 EU per tick out of this bat box. So if I was to put the mass fabricator right about here, it's now receiving, if this guy's offline, which it is, it's now receiving 32 EU per tick, and you can see the progress right here. This it is working. There is power going from the bat box. It's probably actually losing power. It's actually gaining more than 32 EU per tick, so it's actually working. But you'll see, it's incredibly slow. If I was to, I'll speed this up a little bit, guys. There you go, that's 1%. Every time it gets to 100%, that produces 1 millibucket of UU matter, and we need about 120 millibuckets to replicate 1 piece of iridium ore. And like I mentioned earlier, to get the wrench, we need 64 pieces of iridium ore. And so, as you can see, not really a good setup right here. We're not getting, it would take forever in order for this setup, giving it 32 EU per tick, to get to the amount of UU matter we need in order to replicate iridium successfully. At this rate, we might as well do it with the nuclear reactor. It will probably be faster. So what we're going to do, we're going to make a bunch of steam dynamos. I'm going to put a bunch of upgrades in them so that they can produce a lot more power, and then we're going to use the immersive engineering coils and connectors to transfer that redstone flux into EU and of course into the mass fabricator. And what we're going to basically have to wait for now, let me see, has it made any of them yet? It has not. So what we're going to have to do, guys, I'm going to go away. I'm going to wait until my system successfully crafts all 6 of the requested steam dynamos, and I'll be back in a second. And again, quite a while later, our system has now successfully crafted 6 of these thermal expansion steam dynamos, and I have gone ahead and set up this little contraption over here, which right now isn't really much of a contraption. It's our mass fabricator floating in the sky with the basis of a cobblestone generator set up on the floor around here. But basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put down these steam dynamos behind the mass fabricator like this. The reason why I didn't put one in the middle there was just for symmetry's sake. And what we need to do now is quickly grab some of the extra utilities pipes so that we can start pumping water into those steam dynamos. Do we have any extra utilities pipes? Let me have a look real quick. We do, but we only have 4. I was looking over here because usually they're kept right about there, but ever since I set up the logistics pipe system, things have just kind of been all over the place. Apart from the main block of stuff in the middle here, all of the ingots and gems and stuff, everything else has kind of been a little bit everywhere. So let me grab some stone, some glass, and some redstone, and let's quickly whip up a couple more of these extra utilities pipes. We are going to need quite a few of them for the second part of today's episode. We'll then put some redstone in the middle, some glass either side, put the stone slabs back in, and craft up some transfer pipes, and now we'll use these to transfer water from the unlimited water source into these steam dynamos like so. So up until now, the way that we've been getting our steam dynamos to work is by pumping steam directly from the steam boiler from Railcraft over here, directly into the steam dynamos from Thermal Expansion. And whilst that does work, we are currently pretty much out of steam. Well, we're not right now, but trust me, when the system is running at full power, we are pretty much out of steam. And so we can't really use the low pressure steam boiler here to provide steam for the steam dynamos downstairs. And so what we're going to do instead is have the steam dynamos produce their own steam, and they can do that by combining water with any kind of fuel. For example, if I come up here real quick and grab some coal, for example, let's just grab the stack of this stuff here, and I was to stick it into any one of these steam dynamos, they would instantly start to use that coal alongside the water to produce their own steam, and therefore start to produce the 80 redstone flux per tick that they would normally produce. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly request a transfer node from the system here. Thankfully we do have one, and I'm going to start piping the excess coal that we have, or the excess charcoal that we have from our tree farm over here. Right now we have a fair bit of excess charcoal that's being produced, and I'm going to send that charcoal down, around, and into all of these steam dynamos. Now that might cause a bit of a charcoal shortage. I don't know if we're quite going to have enough to run all of these machines at full power all of the time, but if we don't, I can always go ahead and set up a system that starts turning some of our oak wood into charcoal, because you'll notice quite a lot of the oak wood that comes through here doesn't turn into charcoal. So if we do run out, we can always set up a system, probably a furnace somewhere, and that changes all of this wood that's not being transformed into charcoal, and then down to the steam dynamos downstairs. So let me quickly see about getting a pipe system set up to get the excess charcoal from that cart manager over to the steam dynamos. Okay, so now that we've got a pipe that's taking the charcoal from the cargo manager round and over to these steam dynamos, I want to push it a couple of steps further, because right now, all of these steam dynamos, we have 6 of them, they're all producing 80 redstone flux per tick, which means in total they're producing 480 redstone flux per tick at max, and as I mentioned earlier, 4 redstone flux per tick equals 1 EU per tick, which means they're producing about 120 EU per tick, which whilst not an insignificant amount, is not really enough to get this mass fabricator really going and really producing a lot of EU. You'll see it's at 28% because it was hooked up to the back box for quite some time, and it's managed to get almost a third of the way to producing 1 millibucket worth of UU matter. But what I want to do is I want to upgrade these guys fully. I want to go all the way and have them produce as much redstone flux per tick as they possibly can. Now, I have a feeling that this is more than certainly going to put a strain on the amount of charcoal that we have, because I want to go all the way up to the cryo coil flux amplifier, which uses 8 times as much fuel as the base steam dynamo does, but when combined with the other 2 coils will increase the amount of redstone flux that these steam dynamos can produce to 640 redstone flux per dynamo, which means that these 6 dynamos here, if we have enough fuel to get them going, should be able to produce a total of 3,840 redstone flux per tick, which when divided by 4 is 960 EU per tick, which will hopefully be a good enough amount to get this mass fabricator actually going at a nice reasonable rate. So to do that, of course, we have to make 6 of these secondary transmission coils, which double the amount of redstone flux and amount of fuel that the steam dynamos can produce. We've made these before, they're super easy to make. Copper ingots, redstone chipsets, and redstone reception coils. The redstone reception coils, I think we've even taught our system how to make. No, we haven't. We've only taught them the transmission coils because that's what we needed for these steam dynamos. So instead, we can just come on up here, grab ourselves some gold and some redstone. We've already got the redstone chipsets. Let's grab those. And we also have a bunch of copper as well. Let's grab all of those. Quickly whip ourselves up at least, 12 of these? Should be fine because we've got 6 steam dynamos. We can then combine all those up to make 6 of these secondary coil augments. And if we throw those into our steam dynamos over here, they'll all be producing about the same amount of redstone flux as the ones upstairs, that being 160 redstone flux per tick each. I'm hoping that they'll be able to keep up and actually produce all 160 redstone flux per tick each. And what we should probably do actually, before we start pumping this even further, just to make sure that they can keep up, is hook them up to the mass fabricator over here. So let's come back around to our storage drawers. I know we've got a bunch of these MV wire connectors. I don't think we have any more MV wire coil, but we do have a bunch of treated sticks. I think we got 10, and we also have a bunch of electrum over here as well. So let's grab those and let's quickly craft those up into a bunch more of these MV wire coils, and then we'll connect all of these steam dynamos down here up to the mass fabricator. So one thing to bear in mind here is that these MV wire connectors can only transfer 4,096 redstone flux per tick, which is equivalent to 1,024 EU per tick each, which means that we can't connect, I don't think, more than 2 of these steam dynamos to any one connector if we want them to be able to transfer at max speed, because of course 2 of these are going to be producing 1,280, which I think is already more than these can actually handle. But then if we were to add a third one on there, it would just be a complete waste of time and no power would be being transferred from that third dynamo. And so what I'm going to do, you'll see one of the reasons why I've put it one up off the ground here is so that we can connect to the bottom. I think you can connect directly from the steam dynamos like this. I was for a time considering making an energy cell, a redstone energy cell, because our current tier energy cell that we have, which is the hardened energy cell, can only output and receive 800 redstone flux per tick. And so I was considering making a redstone energy cell, which can output and input 8,000 redstone flux per tick, but it's a little bit expensive. I don't really want to make it just yet, and so instead we're going to go ahead and try and do something like this. We're going to connect these 2 to here, this one and this one to the bottom like so, and then these 2 like that. And as you can see, that is starting to produce UU matter a little bit faster, not incredibly faster than it was doing before. And you'll see that these guys are burning through charcoal every so often, not incredibly fast, but not incredibly slowly. And so we're going to move on to the next coil upgrade, the next augment in the lineup, and that is this guy over here, the Flux Modulation Booster. And this is made in a very similar way. It's 4 copper ingots, 1 golden chipset, and 2 pyrotheum dust. Pyrotheum dust we've made before, so let me quickly go and grab some of that. And once we've got all of the ingredients to make the pyrotheum dust, we can go ahead and make at least 12 of these. Once we've got 12 of those, we can then combine those up with all of the other ingredients to get ourselves 6 of these flux demodulation boosters, which we can then come back over and install into our steam dynamos, like so, boosting the amount of redstone flux that they produce to 320 redstone flux per tick. And so this should effectively double the speed at which the mass fabricator is producing power. Let's go ahead and stick you in there as well. Did that one work? It did not, because I put it in there for some reason. Let's put you into there. And now if you're looking again, you can see it's going a little bit faster, still not particularly fast considering how much UU matter. We've got our second bucket worth of UU matter, and considering how much we need though, it's still not really fast enough. And so what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and push this all the way up to the 3rd tier of augment here, this cryo coil flux amplifier. And to make this, we need 4 copper ingots, a diamond chipset, and 2 of this cryotheum dust. To make cryotheum dust, we need more electrotine, as well as saltpeter or niter. We've made niter before, you can get it by pulverizing sandstone, as well as snowballs, which we can get by farming some of the snowbell seeds that we have from Witchery. And then finally, we need this Blizz powder down here, and we can make this by combining up snowballs with some destabilized redstone in a fluid transposer to get us some of that. And so I'm going to go away, guys. I'm going to get all of the ingots to make at least 12 cryotheum dust, make sure we have at least 6 diamond chipsets, and I'll be back in a second. And again, a little while later, now that we've got 12 Nitro, we can take that. We should have 12 Blizz Dust waiting for us over here in the Fluid Transposer. We can take that, as well as, I think, 3 more Diamond Chipsets in here. We can take all of those. Let me quickly grab a little bit more copper, combine all of those up in the crafting station to get us 12 Cryotheum Dust, and then 6 of these Cryo Flux Amplifier Augments, which we can now throw into the Steam Dynamos. You'll see they are running, I say a little bit low. They are completely out of coal at this point, or of charcoal at this point. And so they're not going to quite be producing all 640 redstone flux per tick, apart from this one right here, which, as you can see, is tearing through charcoal like it is nobody's business. But if we put all these in here, this would theoretically be producing about just shy of 4,000 redstone flux per tick and keeping this thing up and running pretty quickly. However, as you can see, it is completely and 100% not doing that. So it looks like, yeah, we're completely out of charcoal on that side. So what I'm going to do instead then, I guess, is let me quickly steal this redstone furnace from here. Let me quickly grab this, and let's put this in the middle of the line, taking the charcoal from over there to over here. And I'm going to put it right about here, specifically because I do want to make sure that okay, let's quickly request a logistics pipe. Let's see, logistics. I want a basic logistics pipe to make sure nothing goes into that redstone furnace there. And then we're also going to need some hardened flux ducts. Do we have any of those lying around? We have 2, so we're going to need to get a few more of those so we can pull the power from there round and into the redstone furnace here. And then all we're going to do is switch out the servo on this from pulling charcoal to pulling oak wood. So let's get rid of you. Let's put oak wood in there. And so now we're going to tell this to only pull out oak wood, which should go along, get put directly into there, and then we want the output to be this side, of course, over here. I don't know if that's going to automatically output to transfer pipes. I don't think it does, so we're probably going to have to make another transfer node. Also, I'll get to the rest of this stuff here in a second. Let's quickly get rid of this pipe, replace it with that pipe. Actually, these are all... Yeah, no, that's right. Okay, cool. Let me quickly go ahead and craft up some more of these hardened flux ducts, as well as another transfer node. Oh, actually, no, that's the wrong way around. Let me rotate this real quick and see if it works if I put the... Let's see. If we put that there and we set that side to output, will that automatically send the charcoal through to the dynamos? Okay, so a little while later, I've hooked up the redstone furnace here with power, and we now have a transfer node which is pulling out all of the charcoal that is being created by this redstone furnace and sending it over to our steam dynamos over here. As you can see, it's not doing a particularly great job. It's managing to keep about 2 steam dynamos, possibly just the 1 steam dynamo, up and running at any given time. And so what I want to do here real quick is actually upgrade this redstone furnace to a reinforced redstone furnace so we can put another upgrade in and double the speed at which you can turn oak wood here in to coal. So if we type in redstone furnace and we look up the recipe for turning it from a hardened furnace, which it is right now, one of these, into a reinforced furnace, all we need to do is get 4 hardened glass and 1 signalum gear with the hardened redstone furnace. That gets us a reinforced redstone furnace, which we can then upgrade with another augment. Signalum gears fairly easily as just 4 signalum in the metal press. So let's come back over once again to our request logistics pipe. Let's type in signalum. We've already got a bunch of that, so let's just go ahead and request 4 of those. As for hardened hardened glass, we don't have any, so let's go ahead and request 4 of those. That should start pulling obsidian from over there, unless we might actually have some obsidian dust. We do already in our system, so it's going to use that to go ahead and make us some more hardened glass over in the induction furnace. The signalum is already here. Let me quickly run that over to the metal press, because we don't currently have it set up to actually make signalum gears. Like, we don't have the recipe in the logistics pipe for making signalum gears, so we'll put that there. That should end up in this chest pretty soon. How long is it going to take this to make the hardened? Is it already done? I see hardened glass coming over. Do we have 4? We've got 2. Oh, we've got 4. Nice. Okay, so the hardened glass is ready and raring to go. The signalum gear is also ready to go. Let's take you. Let's clear some space in our inventory. Let me just quickly dump some stuff out into the system here, like all these golden nuggets. Let's grab our redstone furnace and see about upgrading this guy to the reinforced redstone furnace. So if we just do something like this, we should be able to just shift click that in. We can't. It's probably because redstone furnaces don't stack, but if we do something like this, that gets us a reinforced redstone furnace, which we can put back down right about there. That should keep working as it was working before. And now all we need to do is make the augment overclocker modular gearbox, which is this one right here. And much like the other second tier augment that we made earlier, there's 4 bronze instead of copper this time, 1 golden chipset, and 2 pyrotheum dust. So let's once again come back over here. We should have pretty much everything we need to make all of this. I know that we have a bunch of pulverized coal left in there. Let's grab some blaze powder, some sulfur, and some electrotite. That's going to get us the pyrotheum dust. Let's also grab a bunch of bronze, craft all of those up in here like so. Let's make at least 2 of you, and then use those 2 to make the second tier of augment like so, which we can now put into our redstone furnace. It should effectively double the amount of wood that we can turn to charcoal, albeit at the cost of double the amount of power, and I still don't think I was going to be able to keep all of these at max speed for very long, but that's fine. What I'll probably work on, maybe between episodes, is setting up either a bigger tree farm or possibly making a completely separate tree farm. I might set up as some kind of Mine Factory Reloaded tree farm, because one thing that we can't currently do with the Steve's Carts tree farm that we have right now is plant rubber tree saplings from Industrial Craft 2, and currently my main source of rubber for making like copper cables and Industrial Craft circuits is basically taking rubber wood that I have to currently chop down manually and putting it through the extractor to make a bunch of rubber. And so I would like to be able to automate the process of growing and harvesting rubber trees, but currently we can't do that with our Steve's Carts tree farm. And so what I might do is set up some kind of maybe a Mine Factory Reloaded tree farm that's like half rubber trees and half oak trees, so we can make a bunch more charcoal, make a bunch more wood, therefore make a bunch more charcoal, and also at the same time get some rubber wood as well. But that is not something we're going to do in today's episode. What we're going to do now is work on making this even faster, because we've done about everything we can do right now in terms of making these dynamos as fast as possible to get as much power into the mass fabricator as we possibly can. Right now, we're producing not quite the 1,280 redstone flux per tick that you would assume these 2 would make, because they're not quite running at full speed. Also, you'll see that the water is kind of struggling to keep up as well. And so what we should probably do is set up some speed upgrades. Let me quickly do like just a dump into there. Let's grab a bunch of redstone and some gold, as well as some golden nuggets from over here. And the reason why I had a bunch of golden nuggets in my inventory is because I was using them to make a ton of speed upgrades, which are made using blocks of redstone, golden ingots, and golden nuggets. If we make a bunch of those, we can put some of those into this fluid transfer node down here. Once we do that, that should keep these pretty much full up on water, no matter what, and it is doing just fine. Now, what I was going to do next was set up some recyclers over here to start making some scrap, to start making the mass fabricator even faster, but this episode has already gone on way longer than I originally thought it was going to go on for. And so what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to go away. Next episode, we'll come back, we'll set up with some recyclers, we'll make this thing even faster than it already is. We might possibly look at setting up another tree farm to get a bit more fuel for all of these steam dynamos. If you have any ideas on how you can make this system better, or how we could get more fuel for these steam dynamos, be sure to leave it in the comment section down below. As always, if you did enjoy the video, be sure to hit like. It really does help out a lot. Leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys next time.